Plasma bolts seared past my helmet, close enough to fog my visor. I didn't flinch. 300 meters ahead, the Kethril assault line advanced across the Mojave hardpan in perfect formation, their exoskeletons gleaming like beetle carapaces under the noon sun. They moved with the confidence of a species that had conquered 47 worlds in 30 years. I'd read the briefing. They had every reason to feel invincible. Commander Vekris stood at the center of their formation, his translator broadcasting across all frequencies. Humans of Earth, your resistance is admirable but futile. We have studied your species, your fragile bodies, your limited strength, your slow reflexes. Surrender now and serve the Kethril Dominion. Die with honor rather than face inevitable extinction. I adjusted my rifle's targeting parameters and didn't respond. The silence seemed to unnerve him. We offer mercy, Vekris continued, his voice carrying that particular inflection the Kethril used when addressing inferior species. Our forces number in the millions across your planet. You have already lost. Why do you not answer? Because words wouldn't change what was about to happen. My earpiece crackled. Overwatch to ground units. Target acquisition complete. We have full tactical analysis on enemy formation. Recommend holding position. I clicked acknowledgement. Around me, spread across 3 kilometers of desert, my unit waited in positions the Kethril sensors hadn't detected. 48 soldiers. Against their 3,000. The math didn't favor us. But the Kethril didn't understand that math had never been the relevant calculation. They'd conquered species stronger than humans. Faster, more technologically advanced when first contact occurred. They assumed we'd fold like all the others. They assumed wrong. What they didn't know, what their invasion fleet hadn't transmitted back to their homeworld before we vaporized it in lunar orbit, would fill volumes. But the most important detail was simple. We'd been preparing for this moment for 60,000 years. We just hadn't known it. The question was how long before Vekris realized his tactical advantage was an illusion. Earth hadn't welcomed the Kethril Dominion. When their scouts arrived 8 months ago demanding submission, the United Nations Assembly had given them exactly 4 words in response. Come and take it. The bravado had seemed suicidal to most analysts. The Kethril military machine had crushed the Yevathi defense fleets in 3 days. The Yevathi had possessed energy shielding technology decades ahead of Earth's. They'd still died by the billions. But Earth's leadership knew something the Kethril didn't. They knew what humans were really good at. Not technology, not strength, not even the adaptability that let us thrive from equator to Arctic. No, humanity's true specialization had been refined across millennia of killing each other with steadily increasing efficiency. We were the universe's most dedicated practitioners of organized violence. Evolution had given us the hardware. 10,000 years of warfare had provided the software updates. The Kethril invasion force landed simultaneously at 40 strategic locations: Beijing, Moscow, New York, Sao Paulo. They expected panic, surrender, the usual chaos that preceded occupation. Instead, they found empty cities and waiting kill zones. I'd been part of the Sierra unit, assigned to intercept the Mojave landing. Lieutenant Marcus Chen, former Marine Corps, current Earth Defense Force, 26 years old. 2 tours in the resource conflicts before first contact made all of that seem quaint. The brass had pulled together veterans from every military on Earth, combined our doctrines, and created something new. Something the Kethril would recognize too late. The alien formation was still advancing. Their combat doctrine favored overwhelming force and shock tactics. Hit hard, accept minimal casualties, break enemy morale. They'd used this approach on 47 worlds. This was World 48. Vekris raised one clawed appendage. The Kethril line halted with mechanical precision. We detect only a handful of your warriors. This is your defense? This is the resistance Earth offers? My finger rested outside the trigger guard. Not yet. Curious, Vekris said. Your species shows courage but not wisdom. Very well. You have chosen extinction. The Kethril line surged forward. Now. The first impact caught them at 400 meters. Not plasma, not lasers. Just old-fashioned artillery. 155mm shells that had been obsolete for urban warfare, but perfect for the desert. The rounds hit with GPS precision, airburst pattern, tungsten fragmentation. The lead elements of the Kethril formation simply ceased to exist in a wall of fire and shrapnel. Their exoskeletons, designed to deflect energy weapons, proved inadequate against kinetic force delivered at Mach 3. Vekris's formation scattered. Good. Doctrine was breaking down already. All units weapons free, I transmitted. The desert came alive. What the Kethril hadn't detected were the fiber optic sites, the passive systems, the simple reality that humans had spent centuries figuring out how to kill each other without being seen first. We dug in 3 days ago. Camouflage that didn't just hide us but made us look like rocks, Sand, nothing worth targeting. Technology so low-tech that Kethril sensors, calibrated for energy signatures and active systems, swept right over us. I acquired target, exhaled, fired. The 338 Lapua round crossed 500 meters in under a second. It punched through a Kethril officer's neck joint where the exoskeleton articulated. He went down. Across the kill zone, 47 other rifles spoke. The Kethril had better reflexes than humans. Their reaction time averaged 0.14 seconds compared to our 0.25. Didn't matter. By the time they identified threats, half their command structure was dead or dying. They returned fire. Plasma bolts scorched the desert, but they were shooting at where we'd been, not where we were. Basic fire and maneuver. We'd been practicing it since the Roman legions. Target priority, communications and heavy weapons, I transmitted. The Kethril were trying to call for air support. We'd let them try. 3 more shots, 3 more kills. My rifle's barrel was heating, but still well within tolerance. I shifted position, low crawl, 20 meters east. The spot I'd vacated erupted in plasma fire 10 seconds later. Predictable. The Kethril had never fought an enemy that valued survival over glory. Every species they'd encountered believed their warriors should stand firm, fight with honor, accept glorious death. Humans had abandoned that nonsense around the time of the Mongol invasions. We'd learned that dead warriors don't win wars, living ones do. Vekris was broadcasting again, his translator's pitch climbing into registers that suggested stress. Fall back! Establish defensive perimeter! Where are they? We were everywhere. We were nowhere. We were 48 rifles dismantling an invasion force through sheer murderous efficiency. The Kethril tried to adapt. They activated smoke generators. Good counter to visual targeting, useless against thermal optics. They attempted to rush our positions. Standard shock tactic. Met with claymore mines that the United States had developed in the 1960s and never stopped improving. Directional fragmentation at close range. The Kethril advance disintegrated. Their casualty ratio climbed. 10 to 1, 20 to 1, 30 to 1. Still they came. Their warrior culture demanded it. That was their first fatal miscalculation. Humans had learned to divorce emotion from combat calculations. We'd fight to the last if necessary, but we'd never mistake dying bravely for winning effectively. Sierra Actual to Overwatch. Enemy force reduced to approximately 1,400 effectives. Maintaining engagement. Copy Sierra Actual. Be advised, enemy reinforcements inbound from Las Vegas staging area. ETA 20 minutes. 20 minutes. More than enough time. The Kethril finally adapted their formation, spreading out, using cover. Too late. We'd already broken their cohesion. Individual warriors were seeking shelter rather than maintaining unit integrity. They'd stopped being an army and become a collection of targets. I spotted Vekris trying to rally a squad. He was shouting in his native language, translator abandoned. The words didn't matter. The tone did. Desperation. How could this be happening? That's what he was thinking. His species had conquered an empire. They had superior technology, superior strength. They'd done the analysis. They'd analyzed everything except what made humans dangerous. What makes something dangerous isn't size or strength. The deadliest creatures on Earth were never the ones with the biggest teeth. They were the ones that specialized, the ones that optimized every aspect of their existence toward a single purpose. Ants didn't beat termites by being stronger. They won by being better organized, better coordinated, better at collective violence. Humans were the persistence hunters of the galaxy, not because we never gave up, though we didn't, but because we'd spent our entire evolutionary history learning to kill things that were bigger, faster, stronger than us. We'd developed language primarily to coordinate hunts. We'd invented throwing weapons to kill at range. We'd discovered that a sharp rock on a stick made us apex predators. The Kethril thought they were fighting Earth's army. They were fighting the end product of 3 million years of refinement. Sierra Actual, we have enemy air support inbound. 2 gunships, weapons hot. I smiled without humor. Acknowledged, marking targets now. The Kethril gunships roared over the ridgeline, sensors sweeping for threats. They'd be looking for anti-aircraft emplacements, missile batteries, the high-tech solutions a normal species would deploy. Instead, they found Sergeant Sarah Mitchell with a Stinger missile launcher that the United States had been manufacturing since 1981. Heat-seeking, fire and forget. 22 pounds of fuck your air superiority. The first gunship exploded at 800 meters. The second attempted evasive maneuvers, jinking hard, deploying countermeasures designed for energy-based targeting systems. Didn't matter. The Stinger's seeker head locked onto thermal signature. The missile hit the gunship's port engine. The craft spun, auto-rotation failing, and plowed into the desert with enough force to scatter debris for 300 meters. Splash 2, Mitchell reported. Her voice was perfectly calm. She could have been ordering coffee. The Kethral ground forces saw their air support die, and something broke. Not their lines, those were already shattered. Something deeper. Their certainty that they couldn't lose. Vekris was down to 300 soldiers. His communications were jammed by Earth's electronic warfare units. His reinforcements had stopped responding. The Las Vegas staging area had gone dark. He didn't know it yet, but the same scenario was playing out across 40 locations worldwide. The Kethral were learning what every invading army throughout human history had learned. Logistics matter more than courage. We'd been striking their supply lines since day one. Fuel depots, food distribution, medical stations, all the unglamorous infrastructure that kept armies functioning. The Kethral had planned for military resistance. They hadn't planned for guerrilla warfare that targeted everything except military assets. Their soldiers were running low on ammunition. Their water purification systems were sabotaged. Their morale was collapsing. And still they fought. Give them credit for that. Vekris rallied his remaining troops into a tight defensive circle. Smart. Limited our angles of fire, made them harder to flank. Tactically sound under the circumstances. Tactically irrelevant. Sierra Actual to Overwatch. Enemy has fortified position, requesting fire support. Overwatch copies, fire mission authorized, danger close, recommend withdrawal to safe distance. We pulled back. 200 meters. 300. The Kethral probably thought we were retreating. Maybe that gave them hope. The artillery barrage began 30 seconds later. Not the airburst rounds this time. High explosive. The desert shook. The noise was physical pressure against my chest, even at 300 meters. The bombardment lasted 40 seconds. When it stopped, there was nothing left of the Kethral position except a crater. Cease fire. Sierra Actual confirming enemy neutralized. I swept the kill zone with thermal optics. No signatures. No movement. 3,000 Kethral had landed in the Mojave. 0 remained combat effective. 48 humans. 0 casualties. Those were the numbers that the Kethral Dominion would eventually receive. Would they understand? Would they comprehend that they hadn't just lost a battle, but revealed a fundamental miscalculation about what made a species dangerous? The war lasted 11 more weeks. The Kethral kept sending forces, kept trying to adapt. They deployed heavier armor. We used shaped charges. They tried saturation bombardment from orbit. We'd already moved our military infrastructure underground. They attempted to target civilian populations to break our will. That was their final mistake. Humans have a capacity for spite that borders on suicidal. Targeting our civilians didn't break us, it unified us. Every nation, every ideology, every petty division that had kept us fighting each other for millennia evaporated in the face of an external threat. The Kethral had given humanity something we'd never quite achieved on our own, a common enemy. We stopped fighting defensively. We started hunting. Human strike teams hit Kethral bases across the solar system. We'd reverse-engineered enough of their technology to build ships that could reach their staging areas on Mars and the asteroid belt. We couldn't match their technology. Didn't need to. We matched their logistics and destroyed them. We learned their supply routes and ambushed convoys. We infiltrated their command structures with agents who looked enough like Kethral to pass under combat conditions. We discovered that the Kethral had never developed a robust counterintelligence doctrine because no species had ever thought to deceive them so extensively. They'd conquered 47 worlds. They didn't know how to fight guerrillas, insurgents, or an enemy that refused to fight fair. By week 8, the Kethral Dominion recalled its forces from Earth. Complete withdrawal, no negotiations. They just left. Our satellites tracked their ships jumping to FTL, heading back toward Kethral space. Earth had won. 3 months after the last Kethral ship departed, I sat in a debriefing room in Colorado Springs. The walls were covered with tactical maps, casualty reports, after-action analyses. Fleet Admiral Okafor stood at the front of the room, addressing assembled unit commanders. Total Earth Defense Force casualties, 41,000 killed, 200,000 wounded, against a Kethral invasion force that numbered 8 million. She let the numbers hang in the air. Kill ratio, approximately 150 to 1. There was no cheering, no celebration. We'd won, but we understood what it meant. Every military strategist in the room knew we'd been lucky. The Kethral had expected an easy victory and got complacent. They'd never adapted their doctrine for an enemy like us. The next threat might be smarter. The Kethral have transmitted what they're calling a species classification update to the galactic community, Okafor continued. Humanity is now listed as a Class 7 threat. They've advised all species to avoid contact with Earth. What's a Class 7 threat? Someone asked. It means they've added us to a list of 3 other species the Dominion refuses to invade under any circumstances. Okafor's expression was grim. We're not the most technologically advanced species they've encountered. We're not the strongest, but we're the first they've classified as not worth the cost of conquering. I thought about the Mojave, about Vekris and his 3,000 soldiers, about the methodical efficiency with which we dismantled a superior force through planning, patience, and the accumulated wisdom of countless wars. What do we do now? The question came from Mitchell. Okafor pulled up a star chart. It showed Kethral space, the 47 conquered worlds, the supply lines, the military installations. Now, we decide whether Earth is satisfied with defense or interested in offense. The Kethral know where we are. They can come back with a bigger fleet, better doctrine, actual preparation. Or, I asked, or we make sure they never get the chance. She zoomed the display to a system 22 light years from Earth. Kethral Prime, their homeworld. They've just recalled 70% of their military to fortify it against potential human retaliation. They're scared. They're consolidating. They're making the same mistake every empire makes. They're giving us a target, Mitchell said quietly. Okafor nodded. The decision goes above our pay grade, but the assessment teams have concluded that humanity has approximately a 5-year window before the Kethral either attack again or convince the wider galaxy to quarantine us. So Earth's leadership has a choice. Wait for the next invasion or take the fight to them. I looked at the star chart, at the Kethral homeworld, at the empire that had underestimated us once and would spend generations regretting it. What would you recommend, Admiral? Someone asked. Okafor's smile was cold. I'm a military strategist, not a diplomat. My recommendation is that we show the galaxy what humans do to threats. Not just resist them, end them. She closed the display. But that's not my decision to make. The civilian government will decide Earth's next move. The room fell silent. We all knew what the decision would be. Humanity had spent its entire existence preparing for this moment. Not the moment when we'd defend our home, that was instinct, but the moment when we'd be strong enough to make the galaxy understand a simple truth. Humans don't fight to win. We fight until there's nothing left to fight. And now we had FTL capability. Now we had a target. The Kethral had come to conquer Earth. They'd just given us a reason to conquer the stars. 6 months later, I stood on the bridge of the UFS Retribution, flagship of Earth's first interstellar battle group. 42 ships, 15,000 soldiers, weapons that combined human tactical doctrine with reverse-engineered Kethral technology. We were 3 days from Kethral space. Commander Thyra, our Yevathi liaison, stood beside me. The Yevathi had been the Kethral's last conquest before Earth. They'd offered to help in exchange for their freedom. They understood what the Kethral feared now. Your species is different, Thyra said. Her translator caught the nuances of her native language, respect tinged with unease. Every species the Kethral conquered fought to defend, to protect what they had. You fight to end threats permanently. I didn't disagree. The galaxy will remember this, she continued. Not that humans defended Earth, that humans hunted their hunters. Do you understand what that means? It means no one will underestimate us again. No, Thyra's expression was complex. It means everyone will fear you. There's a difference. Maybe there was. Maybe we'd become something the galaxy hadn't seen before. A species that combined the persistence of prey animals with the calculated violence of apex predators. A species that fought without honor, without glory, without anything except cold determination to ensure threats never materialized twice. The Kethral had studied humanity. They'd analyzed our biology, our reflexes, our technology. They'd measured everything quantifiable. They'd missed the only measurement that mattered: our capacity to optimize for violence across thousands of generations. They'd failed to understand that when humans said, "never again," we meant it with every weapon we could build. The navigation officer called out, "Approaching Kethral border, detecting patrol ships." "All ships, combat stations," I ordered. "Weapons hot. Remember the training." Across 42 ships, 15,000 soldiers prepared for humanity's first offensive war beyond Earth. We'd spent millennia fighting each other. Now we'd show the galaxy what we'd learned. The Kethral had wanted to conquer Earth. We'd teach them why that was impossible. The patrol ships detected us immediately. 6 Kethral destroyers broke formation, accelerating toward our position with the same arrogant confidence they'd shown at Earth. They didn't know we'd studied every engagement, every tactical decision, every weakness in their doctrine. "They're hailing us," the communications officer reported. "Let them talk," I said. "Target their propulsion systems. Fire on my mark." The Kethral commander's face appeared on screen. 4 eyes, chitinous plates, mandibles clicking in what their species considered intimidation. The translator rendered his words. "Human vessels, You have violated Kethral territory. Withdraw or be destroyed. I smiled, not with warmth, with the cold satisfaction of an ambush sprung. You came to our home, I said simply. Now we've come to yours. His mandibles stopped clicking. For just a moment, I saw something I'd never expected to see in a Kethral's expression. Recognition, understanding, fear. Mark. 42 ships fired simultaneously. Not the scattered volleys the Kethral expected, but perfectly coordinated strikes that human pilots had drilled 10,000 times. Our weapons, human-designed railguns enhanced with Kethral power cores, punched through their shields like they weren't there. All 6 destroyers went dark within 90 seconds. Disable, don't destroy, I reminded my crew. We want survivors to spread the word. The battle for Kethral space lasted 3 weeks. Not because they fought well, but because we were methodical, surgical. We dismantled their defense grid piece by piece, always leaving witnesses, always letting some escape. The Kethral had conquered 17 species through overwhelming force. They'd never fought an enemy that treated war as engineering, a problem to be solved through iteration and optimization. When we reached their homeworld, their government surrendered unconditionally. I stood in their council chamber, surrounded by beings who'd believed themselves apex predators. Commander Thyra stood beside me, witnessing her people's liberation. Humanity offers terms, I said. The Yavathi and all conquered species regain independence. The Kethral Empire dissolves. You keep your homeworld and 3 colony systems. You never expand again. The Kethral Prime Minister's translator trembled. And if we refuse? I thought of Earth, of the soldiers who died in orbit, of the lesson we'd learned across millennia of our own wars. Then we teach the galaxy what extinction looks like. Silence. We accept, she whispered. 3 months later, I returned to Earth. The UFS Retribution docked at the orbital station where this had all begun, where Kethral ships had first appeared. Admiral Okafor met me personally. The galaxy's response? The Yavathi are celebrating. 17 species are free, and every civilization within 50 light years is updating their databases. To say what? I smiled grimly. Humanity, persistence predators, high intelligence, extreme threat potential, approach with extreme caution, do not engage militarily. Okafor nodded slowly. We're not the prey anymore. No, I agreed. Now we're something worse. The galaxy had wanted to know what humans were capable of. Now they knew, and they'd never forget.